Hello and welcome to Mickeyology, where we take Disney a little too seriously. I'm Austin Rathall, and today I am going to take a moment and respond to just a few of the wonderful comments that you have left on my recent videos. Once again, I can't get to everybody's comment, and I apologize for that, but I want to send a big thank you to all of you, and I want to say thank you for commenting and thank you for watching. All right, our first comment today comes from Monsieur Pompadour 98, great name, and this is on the Tangled video. He says, Mr. Rathall, it could be possible that the kingdom of Corona in Tangled is the real-life place of Orléans, the city freed by Joan of Arc, because in Tangled the series, in the last episode, when Rapunzel launches the Sundrop magic into space, it is seen that it starts from central France. Yeah, excellent observation. So, could it take place in Orléans? Sure, I think that's a valid theory. That's not where I would place it, because I think that the castle of Corona is very clearly modeled on Mont Saint-Michel, but you're absolutely right that in Tangled the series, that beam of light that shoots out of France is not originating where Mont Saint-Michel is located. It's originating in central France, as you say. So, you kind of have to pick your theory. What do you put more stock in? The design from the movie, the design of the castle, or the satellite image from the series? I don't know that one's more valid than the other, so could it take place in Orléans? Sure, the map justifies it. All right, our next comment is from Fairy Grove 3928, and this is on when and where does Mulan take place? And this person says, since the Ballad of Mulan takes place during the Northern Wei dynasty, which is sandwiched between the Han and Tang dynasties, I would place it then. Since there isn't nearly as much archaeological evidence of clothing/architecture during the Northern Wei, I can see why they relied on styles from the Han and Tang dynasties. I wish they hadn't incorporated stuff from later, like the rockets, Great Wall, and Forbidden Palace, but I can see why they did, since those say China to us Westerners who probably didn't learn much about Chinese history in school. Yeah, I think you are absolutely right about that. If you look at Mulan, it's kind of a strange movie when you look at it through a historical lens. Not kind of strange, it's very strange. It's a mishmash of all these different elements of Chinese history and culture all mashed into one. There really isn't a time period that would make sense for Mulan to take place, considering all the things that we see, but they got away with it because, like you said, us Westerners don't know all of that history as well as we know Western history, and I don't know that Mulan could be made today, at least the way that it was then. So, but on the flip side, yeah, it tells a good story. I know that growing up, it got me familiar with China, taught me a lot of inaccurate things about China as a kid, but it also got me familiar with it and interested in it. And the good news is also that we're seeing more accurate depictions of other cultures in animation now. Not only are international movies that are being animated getting more traction here in the West, but also movies like Kung Fu Panda. When I was doing my research for Kung Fu Panda for the Patreon exclusive, check it out, shameless plug. I was surprised to learn that a lot of people in China love Kung Fu Panda, and I was watching some videos on YouTube where other YouTubers were analyzing the philosophies that are embedded in that movie and how accurate they are. And like Mulan, Kung Fu Panda has a largely, Western cast, and it's made by Western filmmakers, but unlike Mulan, I think we've come a long way, and they were much more careful to make it more accurate, at least in terms of the philosophy and the culture. So I think that for all of Mulan's faults, it's still obviously a Disney classic, and we are seeing even better adaptations of these cultures in our animated films today. This next comment is on when and where does The Rescuers Down Under take place, and this is from Max Mantel 5009, longtime viewer, hello. And Max says, Marahute is a Haast's eagle which lived in New Zealand until the 1400s. And thank you for pointing this out. I had no idea that this species existed, but you're absolutely right. There was this eagle called the Haast's eagle which lived in New Zealand until the 1400s, and it was enormous. It had this enormous wingspan, and they're not sure exactly what the coloring on it would have been. It could have looked like Marahute. But yeah, I had no idea that this enormous eagle, one that is like the one that we see in The Rescuers Down Under, something like that actually existed in Oceania. which is pretty incredible. So yeah, thanks for bringing up that fun fact. This last comment comes from Grim Fan, and it is on the When and Where Does Alice in Wonderland 2010 take place? And he says, technically the 2010 movie should be a following up story of the 1951 film, but I doubt this since in the 1951 film appears the Queen of Hearts. If the 2010 movie is considered a continuation of the 1951 film, it could be theorized that probably the Red Queen killed the Queen of Hearts and unified her kingdom to her own kingdom, so in the movie she is both the Queen of Hearts and the Red Queen because she took over also the name of the queen that she killed. Yeah, this brings up an interesting question. I used to think that the Alice films were a trilogy, that you had the animated Alice in Wonderland, and that was followed by the Tim Burton movie because that clearly takes place afterwards, and then you had Alice Through the Looking Glass. But now I think that these are probably two separate universes that Disney has designed, because in the Tim Burton film we have those flashbacks, but none of the characters look very much like they do in the animated Disney film. For instance, the Mad Hatter looks nothing like the Mad Hatter in the animated Disney film. And you're right, the Queen of Hearts in the first one doesn't seem to be the same person as in the Tim Burton film, and she calls herself the Red Queen, not the Queen of Hearts, but she acts very similar and she has similar catchphrases to the Queen of Hearts. So what happened? Did she usurp the throne? I would say no, because then we got Alice Through the Looking Glass, and that showed us the Red Queen and White Queen as children and showed that they were the heirs to the throne of Wonderland. So I don't think the Red Queen could have usurped the throne. And also, if you look in Alice in Wonderland, the Tim Burton one, you see, I can't believe this is in a Disney movie, but you see floating in the moat beneath the castle the head of the King of Hearts. And that's another sign that this is not the same, because if you remember in the animated one, the King of Hearts is this tiny little guy, and then in the Tim Burton one, we see this fully sized man's head floating in the river. So it's probably not the same King of Hearts. And I'm reading the books right now to bring you guys the book versus movie videos for the Alice films, and come to find out that the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts are not even the same character in the books. They're completely different characters. So yeah, so I would say that that's an interesting theory, but it seems like these are two completely separate universes, and the Alice films are not a trilogy. You have the animated film in its own universe and the live action films in their own universe. So there you have it. Those are just a few of the wonderful comments that you all have left on my recent videos. Thank you everyone for commenting. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want even more videos, you can check out patreon.com/Mickeyology or become a channel member here on YouTube. And if you sign up soon, you will catch our next monthly exclusive, which is When and Where Corpse Bride takes place. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.